Every summer rush.
Top 100.
Every summer rush.
Top 100. He's got a voice that's really the bomb. He'll make a choice that'll aggravate Tom. I hate to spoil it, but when all's said and done, Merchant of Venus gonna be number one.
Every summer rush.
Top 100.
Hello, and welcome to the Dice Tower. Today, number 70 through 61.
You're not selling this, Doc.
Today,
Number 70 through 61. Let's.
Number 70. Clippers.
Let's start things off with Clippers, which gets extra points for being a game that my wife really enjoys. In Clippers, which is an Alan Moon design, you are guiding shipping lanes as they move from one side of the board to the other. You're connecting various islands, and you are also claiming ports on those islands. Ultimately, at the end of the game, the more connections you have at a particular island where you have a port, the more points you are going to earn. You do this by claiming actions that say, well, I get to place 5 segments of route this turn, or I get to place 2 segments twice this turn. It's got some interesting mechanisms as far as how these little route segments are placed, and then there's a purple line that can sort of explode once a certain number of lines hit that particular island. There's a race to see who places where, but then you don't want to put too many eggs in one basket, because then people will steer things away from your islands. So sharing victory points is important. Clippers is a very interesting game. I wish that the tokens were just a little bigger, maybe that there was a scoring track around the outside. Production is alright, but the game itself is very, very good. Clippers.
Number 69. Space Cadets.
Number 69, Space Cadets, a game that I have talked to death on the podcast. It is a Jeff, Brian, and Sydney Engelstein design. I am friends with all of them, but I am just tremendously impressed with this game. I got to see it in early production, and just watching it evolve and seeing how it all came together. I think the final version is terrific. It is a simulation of a starship bridge. You're flying around trying to complete missions, but you do that in various stations by completing mini-games. There's one that's a little bit like poker, there's one that's reaching into a bag and trying to find shapes, there's one that's like Robo Rally where you're guiding the ship around, and you all work together and try and complete the mission without exploding, which is, well, easier said than done. Space Cadets is a very interesting game. Great family game because you're all working together. You can give each other the jobs that people will be good at. If you're not very good at that Robo Rally spatial thing, you don't have to do that. And you get a different job on the bridge. I really like Space Cadets.
Number 68. Defenders of a Realm.
Now on to another game that I got to see in its early versions. This is Richard Launius's Defenders of the Realm. It's a fantasy cooperative game that shares at least a passing similarity to Pandemic, but it's really a very different game. You are trying to defend a central location from hordes of enemies that are sort of marching in from different directions. There are generals, there's a bunch of dice rolling, you are heroes running around with different special abilities, and you're trying to, hold off this flood of bad guys and defeat the 4 generals in order to win the game. It ends up running a little long, but it's so different from a lot of the other co-ops. It has a real epic feel to it. You're completing quests. There's a ton of expansions for it. Very cool game. Fantasy art by Larry Elmore. I was very happy with the final version of Defenders of the Realm.
Number 67. Number Sleuth.
From a large box to a very small one, this is Sleuth, a classic Sid Saxon deduction game. One particular gem card has been stolen, and your job is to figure out which one it is, and you've got a certain number of cards in your hand, and using specific question cards, you are trying to figure out what's in everyone else's hand. Once you've eliminated all those cards, you know which one card is hidden face down and has been stolen. I love the structured nature of Sleuth. There are other deduction games that are a lot more free-form, that allow you to ask all sorts of questions, but no, I like playing the system. Being able to look at this card and saying, all right, how many diamonds do you have? And having that specific question, figuring out your notes. You have a little grid and you can figure out what everyone else has in their hand. I really enjoy the puzzle of Sleuth.
Number 66, El Grande.
Number 66 is a classic of area control. This is El Grande. You've got a map of Spain, and you're placing little squares, little cubes in there to represent your influence in that particular zone. But each zone has different scoring, and that scoring can actually change throughout the course of the game. There are 3 scoring rounds. At the end of the 3 scoring rounds, whoever has the most points wins, and then you actually move things around through the use of these cards that you claim in turn order. There's a bid, and the more you bid or the higher you bid, the fewer of these cubes you're going to take into your personal stock. If you decide to take sort of a break one round and you don't bid as high, you go last, but you're going to have a lot more resources to work with. That flow, that influx of getting the cubes from the provinces into your useful stock and then putting them out onto the board, this game holds up, what, 15, 17, 18 years later? El Grande is a terrific game and well worth a spot on my
Number 65, Princes of Machu Picchu.
Number 65 is The Princes of Machu Picchu, which is a Mac Gertz design. He's a designer I particularly enjoy. He's very famous for the rondel mechanism. Machu Picchu takes that rondel and sort of expands it into a map. I know Tom makes fun of that, but it's an interesting variant on the system. You've got a map, and different actions can be taken in different areas of the map, and your little figurine can only move to certain areas on their turn. You can spend resources to move farther on that map, but certain areas are only accessible from other areas. So planning out what you want to do and what order you want to carry out these actions is vastly important. There are also nice little resources that you can collect and then spend to get cards, and then there's this 2-pronged aspect to the final scoring, that the game can either end with the Spanish victory, in which the score will be totaled in one way, or by the native victory, and the score will be totaled in a different way. So as you start collecting point scoring cards, you'll sort of pick a side, and then pushing for one way to end or the other can mean the difference between success and failure. I really like that aspect of The Princes of Machu Picchu.
Number 64, Heroescape.
My number 64 I don't have a lot to show for, because all of my Heroescape is currently in a bin in the basement, waiting, hibernating until my son gets just a little bit older. He's very close. Recently I was organizing, and he sort of saw what I was doing. He said, "Daddy, what's that?" And I set up a map, and we did sort of a test run. This is the only thing that is currently out on display, because I just think it's a cool looking dragon. Just the wonder of Heroescape is that it was this mass-produced game that has essentially toys as its playing pieces. They're all pre-painted, they're all excellent minis, and yet it's actually a robust game that's worth playing for adult players. I'm really looking forward to playing Heroescape with my son when he gets a little bit older, so this one's in hibernation for the time being, but it's on my top 100 for sure, Heroescape.
Number 63, Cathedral. Ha 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 ha.
Cathedral. I'm a big fan of Richard Breese. I like many of his designs, and a few will show up later on the list as well. In Cathedral, it's almost an advanced Settlers of Catan. You're trying to acquire resources on the board, and you have little guys that you can activate in a certain order. You're also competing for those same resources. Only one person can farm a particular resource, so you may want to build fences to prevent someone from collecting that particular resource. Or you want to make sure your guy collects first before the other guy is able to do that. You can upgrade your farms into cities, which will collect more resources. You're then spending those resources to build sections of the Cathedral, which ultimately earn you points. Very interesting game, very big on player interaction because turn order is a huge deal in this game. Very fun, and the illustrations are very nice as well. Unique. Cathedral.
Number 62, In the Nation.
Is Innovation, which is a lovely little card game, a very divisive card game. Some people consider this to be little better than Flux, because things can get a little chaotic once you add 4 players to this game. But I love the mechanisms of Innovation. It's a card game. You've got a sort of a tableau that you're building that represents your civilization, and there are 10 different ages that you're getting cards from. And as the ages move along, the cards get more powerful. There's this whole mechanism of these symbols, and if you have the most of a particular symbol, you can do stuff that other people can't do. But if somebody else has the same or more of that symbol than you do, they may get to jump in and share your actions, which can be sometimes beneficial and sometimes not. There is a lot going on in Innovation, especially once you add the expansions in. I am a little annoyed with the production. I have the original edition of Innovation, and I just got the most recent expansion. The components, the rules, and the summary cards don't fit in the original box. Although, if you have the new box, I don't think all the cards fit in there either, so it's a little annoying. I may need to move this to another container. But still, Innovation is a very interesting game. You can get this edition, this is the Asmati Games edition, or you could check out the new yellow box, which has the first expansion and the base set with completely different art. Innovation.
Number 61, Canal Mania.
Last but not least for this set is Canal Mania. It's another game I don't own because my group does. It is a lovely combination of many of the mechanics from Ticket to Ride and, say, Age of Steam, a pick up and deliver sort of game. You are building connections between cities in England, and they're canals, and you are trying to connect cubes to cities that want those cubes, and you are doing this by drafting cards from a row of cards, much like Ticket to Ride, and you're collecting different types of terrain so that you can make these connections that you're trying to go for. You also have special abilities based on the personality cards that you have managed to draft. So you've got a guy with a special ability, but there's also an action where you may trade abilities with somebody else. So if somebody's really utilizing something really cool and you say, well, that would be useful for me, you simply trade cards so that in the next round you will have that special ability. Lots of neat stuff going on, and it's a thinky game, one that I think has been overlooked a little bit. It's a Ragnar Brothers release. There is a second edition with streamlined rules. Well worth a look. Canal Mania, my number 61.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on the Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching one of the Dice Tower's Top 100 Games list. Tune back next time for 10 more of Eric's games. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock.
Top 100.